breath. There, the bomb was dropped. I had finally admitted my longing. I wanted to abandon England with its ceaseless rain. I wanted to move permanently to Spain. Sleep forgotten, Joe pulled himself upright, confusion in his blue eyes as he tried to read my expression.
"Vicky, what did you say just then?"
he asked, squinting at me. "I want to go and live in Spain."
"You can't be serious."
"Yes, I am." Of course, it wasn't just the rain. I had plenty of reasons, some vague, some more solid. I presented my pitch carefully. Our children, adults now, were scattered round the world, Scotland, Australia, and London. No grandchildren yet on the horizon, and Joe only had a year before he retired. Then we would be free as birds, to nest where we pleased. And the cost of living in Spain would be so much lower. Council tax a fraction of what we usually paid, cheaper food, cheaper houses. The list went on. Joe listened closely, and I watched his reactions. Usually he is the impetuous one, not me. But I was well aware that his retirement fantasy was being threatened. His dream of lounging all day in his dressing gown, writing his book and diverting himself with the odd mathematical problem was being exploded. "Hang on, Vicky, I thought we had it all planned. I thought you would do a few days of supply teaching if you wanted, while I start writing my book." Joe absent-mindedly scratched his nether regions. For once I ignored his infuriating habit. I was in full flow. But imagine writing in Spain. Imagine sitting outside in the shade of a grapevine and writing your masterpiece. Outside, windscreen wipers slapped as cars swept past, tires sending up plumes of filthy water. Joe glanced out of the window at the driving rain, and I sensed I had scored an important point.
"Why don't you write one of your famous lists?"
he suggested. Only half joking. I am well known for my lists and records. Inheriting the record-keeping gene from my father, I can't help myself. I make a note of the weather every day, the temperature, the first snowdrop, the day the ants fly, the exchange rate of the euro, everything. I make shopping lists, separate ones for each shop. I make to-do lists and Joe, will you please lists. I make packing lists before holidays. I even make lists of lists. My nickname at work was Schindler. So I set to work and composed what I considered to be a killer pitch. Sunny weather. Cheap houses. Live in the country. Ridiculously low council tax. Friendly people. Less crime. No heating bills. Cheap petrol. Wonderful Spanish food. Cheap wine and beer. Could get satellite TV so you won't miss English football. Much more laid-back lifestyle. Could afford house big enough for family and visitors to stay. No TV licence. Only short flight to UK. Might live longer because Mediterranean diet is healthiest in the world. When I ran dry, I handed the list to Joe. He glanced at it and snorted.
"I'm going to make a coffee,"
he said. But he took my list with him. He was in the kitchen a long time. When he came out, I looked up at him expectantly. He ignored me, snatched a pen and scribbled on the bottom of the list. Satisfied, he threw it on the table and left the room. I grabbed it and read his additions. He'd pressed so hard with the pen that he'd nearly gone through the paper. Joe had written, "Can't speak Spanish. Too many flies. Moving house is the pits." For weeks we debated, bouncing arguments for and against, like a game of ping-pong. Even when we weren't discussing it, the subject hung in the air between us, almost tangible. Then one day, was it a coincidence that it was raining yet again? Joe surprised me.
"Vicky, why don't you book us a holiday over Christmas and we could just take a look?"
The hug I gave him nearly crushed his ribs. "Hang on," he said, detaching himself and holding me.